stunning new report now claims the Obama administration knowingly freed hundreds of convicted immigrants. The Washington Times saying that Immigration and Customs Enforcement released 36,000 who were in the process of being deported, included among them 116 who had been already convicted of murder, thousands convicted for drunken driving, and others reportedly convicted of sex crimes. Rich Lowry, editor of National Review, with me in the studio to explain how in the world does this happen. How are we putting murderers back on the street?
It's just unfathomable, Bill. These are 36,000 people with multiple convictions. I think the number of convictions was 88,000 when you put them all together collectively, and they're being released. And the administration says, well, some of these were under court order, but the author of this report from the outfit, the Center for Immigration Studies, says, no, actually most of them were discretionary. And the administration also says, well, they'll be monitored or they'll have to report back with officers from immigration authorities, but who knows whether you'll see any of these people ever again. So it's just perverse.
But the home country did not want them. I mean, you can't blame them.
Yeah. Well,
so why do we have to continue to live with them, not in our prisons, but on our streets?
Yeah, well, they should be held, obviously, but in those specific cases where the home country won't take them, you have had courts say, well, you can't hold them indefinitely. But my understanding, that is not most of these people. And it plays into the broader story here, Bill, where interior enforcement under this administration, despite the spin, has drastically declined. And they get numbers of supposed record numbers of deportations by basically an accounting gimmick, where they're what used to be called returns. If they catch you at the border and they turn you around and say, see you later, you're going back to your home country, they're now counting those as removals, which is what are typically considered deportations. So while interior enforcement, once you're here in this country, your chances of getting deported are extremely slim, they're trying to say they're increasing deportations.
So if you're caught on the border and you're sent back home, that's now considered a deportation?
Correct.
This is a different way of just adding up the math then?
Correct. And interior enforcement, according to Jessica Vaughn, who did this report, last 2 years has decreased 40%. So you have this bizarre situation where you have the administration spin, oh, we're tougher on enforcement than anyone has been ever before, and you have the left going crazy over this and protesting the administration's heartless immigration enforcement policies. At the same time, interior enforcement has declined, and all indications are that it's going to decline further.
Two more quick points. ICE says 75% of the convicted murderers released last year were considered mandatory releases. In other words, they had to do this because a court came in, a judge said, you have to do this, you have to follow the law. ICE came under fire also because they blamed the sequester in the budget cuts. It turns out the end had nothing to do with the sequester.
Yeah,
that was last year.
If they want more rooms, more beds to hold these people, the administration should go to Congress and ask for them, but it hasn't. And again, it's because they have very little interest in interior enforcement. It seems as though the chances of getting immigration reform / amnesty are declining, so the way for them to get that end without actual legislation is to act administratively to gut their own enforcement. And the spin has been, oh, we're just focusing on criminals. Well, this story and others show even the criminals are getting let loose.
That's an interesting point. Politically speaking, on immigration reform, does this help or does this hurt?
It hurts because the Republicans, the opponents of immigration reform on the right, one of the arguments they make is you just can't trust this administration to enforce the law. So the more stories you have like this, the more resonance that argument has.
I imagine a lot of people weren't aware of this, but they are now. Washington Times is all over it today. Thank you, Rich. Rich Lowry here in the studio. Martha, what's next?